This is now Marty's Podskoch.
The name of it is the Connecticut 169 Town.
Okay.
Book. Okay? And I'd like to thank you very much for coming out today, and thank Richard and Bianca upstairs for hosting this and giving us, I don't know which way to stand, so I'll just keep moving around. But we're lucky too. Barbara has come from Southbury, and she has done some of the writing of the book, and she'll also tell some of the story of this book. And there's our logo. But I'm originally from around Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Any Pennsylvanians here?
No, but good friends from Wilkes-Barre.
Who?
Monroe Berkowitz.
What?
Monroe Berkowitz.
No. I was in Kent on Wednesday night, and this lady, I said Pennsylvania, she said her parents are from Edwardsville, and my uncle was a priest at a church in Edwardsville. You know, it's just the coincidences. Then I went to King's College, a little college in Wilkes-Barre, studied history and government. This way I could see everybody. And got a job in New Jersey. And I told you I used to go down on 287 and go through New Brunswick, and I taught 4th grade, 7th and 8th grade history. Then I got a master's in reading and met my wife, who was from Rockville, Middlefield. Thank you, Barbara, helping remind me. And she was a farm girl, and I told Leela that they had a dairy farm, one of them in Pine Plains, not too far from here. Is it Route 44 or what's it, one something or other?
Yeah, it's a remote road leads to Pine Plains.
Very nice. And we didn't want to live in New Jersey, just like you people didn't want to live in New Jersey. And too crowded. So we were lucky to get a job in Delhi, a little town along the west branch of the Delaware River, and not too far from where it begins, because Dick, he is one of the persons trying to promote the healthiness of the Housatonic River. Dick, what is your job?
Development director for another week.
Oh, then he retires. Then he retires.
That's right.
And then he goes into a new profession.
That's right, called retirement.
Okay. And what was your job there?
Raising money.
Money. Okay.
Someone has to do it.
Okay. So, where were we? Oh, I got a job in Delhi, not too far from Oneonta, which is close to Cooperstown, if you're a big fan of baseball. And raised our 3 kids. We had a house, old barn, and 10 acres of land. And then in 2005, our daughter, who lived in Connecticut then, she decided her and her husband were going to have a family, so we came to Connecticut. And we've been there from 2005. But what I did is, while I was in the Catskills teaching, I also visited a fire tower on Hunter Mountain. And I told the publisher, I said, somebody should write a story about fire towers, because I met a guy up there in the Hunter Mountain in 1987, and he said what a wonderful job it was, meeting thousands of people and getting paid for sitting on top of a fire tower and just enjoying the beautiful view and meeting people. So I told the publisher about it in 1997. He said, Marty, they're trying to save the towers in the Catskills. How would you like to write a book? So I was dumbstruck. Me, an author. I was a reading teacher. I had been for 25 years getting authors to come to our school, and I was in Kent on Wednesday night, and I told them how I was lucky to get Bill Armstrong, who worked at Kent School for Boys, and he wrote the book Sounder. And I was lucky to have him come and stay over, and I did this. I started with the writer Gene George, who wrote My Side of the Mountain, which was all about Delhi, about a boy living in the Catskill Mountains because he was trying to find his Grandpa Gridley's farm. And I called this phone number of Gene George in Chappaqua. I don't know if anybody knows where this little town of Chappaqua is. And called her up and asked her if she'd like to come. She said she'd love to come to be here for our first book fair. Welcome, I'm Marty from East Hampton. Your name?
Jerry, sorry I'm late.
Where are you from originally?
Cornwall. I'm from Canaan.
Native?
Yeah, I'm native.
Of Canaan,
Yes.
not North Canaan.
North Canaan.
Are you North Canaan or Canaan?
North Canaan.
Oh, okay, 'cause there's a difference. It's in the book. I went crazy reading the definitions of Canaan, North Canaan, Falls Village, etc. So I was lucky to get the reporter in North Canaan, and she wrote the part about North Canaan, and I had the selectman from Falls Village write about Canaan. Then I can't go wrong,
Can't go wrong.
because they're the local people. So I had writers coming like Gene George. I had Haywood Hale Brune. Have you ever heard of him? I was so lucky. You just have to call them up and ask them to come from, because it was close to Woodstock, so you got a lot of artsy people. And Ian Ballantine Books, Howard Koch, who wrote the movie Casablanca. So I tried to get the kids interested in writing, and guess who became a writer? Their teacher. So I went from the book about the fire towers of the Catskills to the southern fire towers. There are 57 up there. And I got those two done, and then I did these Adirondack storybooks, which I had a comic book illustrator who was good friends with Stan Lee and all those other comic book illustrators, because Stan Lee is famous for doing Spider-Man. Yeah, just passed away. So for every week, we did a little story, and one of them was Brandreth. And I did this for 5 years, and for 15 years now, they just keep repeating them over again. 5 years, another 5 years, another 5 years, because they're interesting. And he always, had an interesting layout. And then, while I'm driving around, I went from fire towers to the Civilian Conservation Corps camps. Anybody know what the CCC camps were? All right, Steve, what were they? Or Dick?
They were Works Project Administration, work for people who were in need during the Depression.
Okay. What else?
I think they built fire towers and did different things.
They built fire towers.
And they were sort of like almost like forest rangers in a way.
Okay.
And stuff.
And as I'm driving down this road, I'm thinking of the book that I did about the CCC camps of Connecticut. And this took me 7 years, but I gave talks throughout the state, and I interviewed about 100 Civilian Conservation Corps workers, and right across the river here was the West Cornwall Camp, Housatonic Meadows, in Sharon. But it was called the West Cornwall Camp because the nearest post office was here. That's what's confusing about it, okay? But they did a lot of work around here from 1933 to I think it was 1940, okay? And as I'm thinking about it too, you have a lot of artsy people around here, writers, etc., artists, and they had a lot of these writers come right to the camp and give talks. They even went and took truckloads of the boys up towards Falls Village, and what is that Music
Music Mountain?
Music Mountain, thank you, Richard. And they went for, you know, all of this music, and they even had the leader bring the musicians down to the camp and did a concert at the Houstonic Meadows camp. And I forget, you'd have to look through the book, but they had a lot of top writers coming to the camp, you know, trying to get the kids interested in many different topics. So I just love doing these CCC camps, and I forget where, I guess I don't have my Adirondack CCC book here, but this is what I do in retirement. So Dick, now you'll be pondering, what do I do with the rest of my life? So I retired in 2001, and I just enjoy the passion of interviewing people, finding out about their life, what did they do up in the fire towers, and now, when I was up in the Adirondacks, I saw how gorgeous it is, and some of you people go to the Adirondacks. So what I did is, get this, goes over. Let's see if I can change this.
Probably have to point it to the projector or your laptop.
Oh, it's on. If it
Laptop.
falls asleep, that would be my problem.
Aim it at the laptop.
And it is laptop.
Oh boy,
Well, hit enter on it.
this happened to me. Okay, now the only other choice is, it is frozen. That's why I ordered a new computer. It came in, and my son-in-law has to do the programming.
You
Okay,
have to try hitting enter.
so what I did,
Hit enter.
Right, let's try hitting enter.
Just hit enter.
Try hitting
I
enter.
didn't try that, but maybe you weren't quite square on it.
Oh, enter.
It's a big one down there in the right. That's it? It changed on your screen.
no,
You backed out of your.
no, it should be here.
Yeah.
Okay, who's the youngest person here? You need somebody a techie person.
I'm the oldest.
Well, you know what?
Okay.
The standard thing is for computers.
Oh, start
Reboot
it.
it, right?
Let's-
Whatever tells me using that device and say, you know,
Okay,
if you're ever on a flight and we're having a little trouble, mechanical trouble here, so we're gonna shut down the engines and restart them. I would not feel good about that at all.
all right, Barbara, while we're getting this, Barbara, tell them how I got you to write, because what this book contains, I had 183 writers write about their towns, a little history, interesting places. So Barbara's going to tell you about how I suckered her into doing.
Well, you know how the story begins. My name is Barbara Hampton. I'm an addict. I'm a book addict. I'm a librarian. And I was at the library conference and walking by all the fascinating displays there. And I see this book, 102 Adirondack Club. I love the Adirondacks. We go camping in the Adirondacks all the time. I want that book, pick up that book. Oh, Catskills. We go camping in the Catskills too. I want those books too. And then the stories. Oh, I read that. So this I have this stack of books like this. And Marty sees on my badge that I'm from Southbury. He says, oh, you're from Southbury. He says, I'm doing this new book on Connecticut. You know anything about Southbury? Yeah, a bit. He said, how'd you like to write a chapter about Southbury? I said, I've written a bit before. It's not the first go around for me. Yeah, I said, but you can't tell the story of Southbury unless you tell the story of, does anybody know? Woodbury. Because Woodbury was the parent town for Southbury, Bethlehem,
Washington.
Roxbury, and Washington. So, final end of the conversation came very good. Why don't you do all 5 towns? And I did, and it was fun, because all the people in those towns were people who said, as we said before about New Jersey, you know, so it's too crowded here. And we wanted to get out where they could get more land to farm and to harvest stuff from and so on. So I've had fun with that. I've been in many of the towns in the state, pretty much all of the ones on this side of the Connecticut River, and a fair portion of the ones on the eastern side. But even the ones I've been to, I'm enjoying this book because I'm finding stuff from somebody who's lived there recently and intensively that I want to go see. So I'm going to get the other end of my fun with this. That's
Barbara, because
Yeah.
we're still in transition, would you mind telling them what, just a little bit about each town, say if they wanted to go to, you know,
In
to see
Woodbury,
Woodbury,
et
et
cetera.
cetera.
Sure.
Please.
Well, the people that settled that area came up the Housatonic River, so they got a direct connection here to Cornwall. They had made a deal with the Native American tribe in the area because they were in a fight in Stratford over the control of the church there. And they made a deal to buy some land. So we're just going to go start our own church and do it the way we want to do it. Who is it who left England? Baptist? Is that you? Your family
Somebody
left
said there was a
Baptist?
Baptist.
No?
Me.
You?
Parish
Okay.
college.
German
So-
bakers.
So this was Congregationalists, and you know,
Yeah.
we all like to do it our own way. So they bought the land, paddled up the Housatonic, and they were told, take the first big river to the right. And if you've ever had directions like that, you know, oh yeah, just go this way and then take your first main road on the right. And you keep going by things and you're saying, is that the main road? I'm not sure. But they went off on the Pomperaug River and the Chappaqua River and settled in the Pomperaug Plains. And that was in the 1600s, before Connecticut was a state, long before the United States was a country. And that was the main drag there. They were originally going to be the county seat for Litchfield County, what is now Litchfield County. But the people there who had established successful businesses and everything else said, if we do that, that means we're going to have the county jail. And all the lawyers at the county courthouse. We don't want that kind of riffraff around here. So, no, we don't want to be the county seat. So they sent it up to Litchfield. Litchfield seems to have managed it reasonably well. But that big area was mostly farming. The people who went off to Roxbury included the families of Ethan Allen and Seth Warner, who are famous as part of the Green Mountain Boys, who fought to keep Vermont separate from New York. They were in, the Yorkers, they called them, wanted to claim the land where Vermont was. And that continued on into the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812. And as it happens, we just bought a house up, second house up on North Hero Island, which is named after one of the heroes, namely Ethan Allen. The other island, South Hero Island, named after his brother. So it's nice how that all ties in together. So that's Roxbury. Bethlehem is famous for, of course, modern day. They have their Christmas festival. I don't know if anybody's been there lately. But long before that, they had a number of schools there. A lot with training ministers, but also schools for young men and young women. And Washington was known, that section of Washington was known as Judea. And likewise they had...
It was the North Purchase, initially. It was the North Purchase of Woodbury and Judea.
Yeah, well, there's several pieces put together.
Right.
Yeah. I think there are 3 different sections. I have to go back and look at it. But the part that is part of Woodbury is Judea. And then lastly we have Souterrain. Souterrain actually was the first one to break off. And the way towns broke off then was that you were required to go to church every Sunday. And the church was the Congregational Church, because that was the official church of the state of Connecticut. And you could get excused from that, but if you were able and not going someplace else, you were supposed to be in church. But that was not so much fun in the winter. I mean, it was probably not so much fun in the summer either, because you're talking about going maybe 10 miles to get to church on foot or on horseback or in a wagon or whatever. And they asked for permission to have winter privileges, meaning get excused from having to go to church, or to have a minister, a separate minister, because it wasn't supposed to be 2 competing churches, to preach in their local area. And eventually they developed another congregation to split off and it asked to be a separate town. So Southbury split off first, then Bethlehem, then Roxbury, then Washington, all out of ancient Woodbury. So that's my 5 towns.
You
And
did.
you've got it fired
You
up.
got it.
Okay.
And whenever you're in trouble, shut it down and start again.
Yep.
So I went through the Adirondacks, giving talks in order to write my 5 books about the Adirondacks. Here I am in Tupper Lake at a Jewish synagogue, giving a talk about fire towers, Racket Lake, and maybe we could shut a few lights off. Or is that correct? Which one? Here?
Just
Okay.
what you're saying.
Okay, so this will help a little bit, or what place is a good place for ice cream or donuts? Have you been to Eagle Bay? Dick,
No,
never been there? Right below Inlet, if you've ever heard, good donut place. But I read in a Sunday supplement how there was a club in Vermont called 251 Club, and it had been started back in 1951 or 54, when Dr. Peach wrote in Vermont Magazine that he urged all Vermonters to go and try to take the road less traveled and visit all of Vermont's beautiful towns. How many of you like to go to Vermont? Okay, it's just gorgeous. So this was a story about how it began, and this couple from Schenectady, they moved to Vermont, and they would have people, you know, keeping track, volunteers of who visited all the 251 towns. So there's nobody's going to keep track of you, you know, it's only on your honor. And if you do go to visit all the towns, first of all, I'll give you a map and then just say go. You keep track of it yourself, and every year they have a luncheon in Montpelier in which the governor gives out an award to those people visiting all 251 towns, and they are called prime members, okay? So people keep doing it. So I said, let's do it for the Adirondack Mountains. There were 102 towns. So I asked the town supervisors, did they like the idea of people visiting all the 102 towns? They loved it because a lot of people just go to Old Forge area, or Lake George, or up to Lake Placid. They don't visit all these small towns. So I had somebody whom I knew up there in Wilmington, near Whiteface, and she was a photographer from New York City, and she had this photo that's a rainbow, and somebody traveling along the roads there in the Adirondacks. So I thought that was a great photo, and I got the state senator urging people to take the road less traveled, and then I had it arranged into counties so that if you were doing Herkimer or Lewis County, you could be able to hit one town after the other, and then you could go to another town. So here is one of the places in Krogan. It was a maple syrup place, and another famous place is Krogan Bologna. And believe it or not, this young girl, she said, this is a great book, I think we'll sell it here, along with pork chops, etc. And Krogan Bologna. And she said, how many books in a case? I said, 19. Richard, she said, I'll take 2 cases. So I'm there signing. I said, what a deal, you know.
And
So-
she's made you in bologna.
There's no bologna in that
Bologna
deal.
there.
Yeah. So then you go across the street, and then you could go to Wishy's Ice Cream. Okay. So another thing too for Connecticut, what are some of the good places as you're traveling that you could also stop for a nice ice cream? Okay. Or a little restaurant like, hey, go to RSVP. Okay. Oh yeah. So I didn't care for putting our members at the top and saying they're prime members, okay? Prime beef, you know. Amazon Prime. But I like history, and probably some of you people like it. And there were these 4 men who liked to come into the Adirondacks camping. And does anybody know these people here? Famous guys.
What year are we?
This is 1920s.
Oh my gosh.
Is Edison in that picture?
Edison's in there?
Is one John here?
No,
No.
here's
But
Edison.
you're close, actually.
Yeah, it's one of the naturalism.
Yeah.
It's not, you're, oh,
From the Catskills,
Yeah.
Burroughs.
Oh, John Burroughs.
John Burroughs.
Yeah.
And this guy, Henry Ford, and Firestone. So these guys went camping in their nice suits and ties. That's what they're used to, okay? So they're out there camping, hiking and everything in suits and ties, okay? No LL Bean clothing there. They had their tents. Ford had his chuck wagon there and a cook. And each of these tents had electric lights because Edison brought a generator. And you had this caravan of reporters following these 4 guys, okay, and covering the story, and they labeled them as vagabonds. So that's what I decided to do. If you went to all 102 towns, you would get the vagabond patch, okay? And we had the ladies in Brant Lake by Old Forge, or Lake George, they said, we're not going to do a luncheon, we're doing a dinner. So we had a dinner there at Brant Lake, and guess how many people came?
102.
Very good. 102 people, and these were the 5 people in a year that had made it. Joyce was, and this guy said, you're going to label them V1. And her friend, Barbara, V2. From Cranberry Lake, V3. V4 from Blue Mountain. And this guy from Hamilton, he was the hockey coach at Colgate University. He got so infatuated with this, he just keeps going 102, and he keeps coming back to the Adirondacks to try to meet more people. He's got 3,000 signatures. So you gotta meet somebody, not just drive through the town, okay? So then we had a little gathering where we had 7 writers that I had never met before, just like I haven't met 95% of the writers for this 169 Club book, and they all got to sign the book. And so it was, somebody bought a book and they had to take their book to all the 7 writers, just like today we will have Barbara be one of the signers. So when I came to Connecticut, 2005, I said, I'm going to do a book about the CCC camps here, because we even have in Stafford Springs a CCC museum. And I started going to reunions there. I started reunions, and I traveled all over Connecticut, and here I am at the museum with Jody Rell, the governor, and she said, Marty, my father was in the CCC, but I never asked him. So this happens to a lot of people. Here we are in Burrville, right above Torrington, this beautiful stone building. Anybody go to Burrville? Or Burr Pond?
Burr Pond.
Burr Pond. It's gorgeous. And this is, I think, the Madison camp. This, forget this, oh, this one is Chatfield Hollow. But they had their own clinic, you know, they had a doctor. Boys would dress up maybe when they'd have going to a dance or something. But can you imagine feeding 200 boys 3 meals a day? So, but they did so much work around here and all over the United States. So I'm traveling around and seeing this beautiful state, and I said, hey, let's do a travel book for Connecticut, just like I did for the Adirondacks. Vermont has 251 Club. So, oops, sorry, the button here. What town in Connecticut does this show? This is just a little game just to see how could you travel out of West Cornwall. Trumbull. Nobody?
Madison?
Madison, good guess. Goes the water. This is the Connecticut River.
Oh,
Old Lyme,
Hatton.
Lyme.
Haddam?
Haddam.
Close Chester. Okay. Or no, Essex, sorry. Then this one here. Somebody said Jones Farm.
Oh, Jones Tree Farm?
No.
Oh.
But it isn't. I was there last Sunday or Saturday doing a book signing. It's in the little town of Sterling on the Rhode Island border. And this is Ashley and her father Rich catching pumpkins, okay? And they raise turkeys. And they're all free range turkeys. You know, they're not all in a coop. They go out and they have a big dog that watches over them at night and during the day. How about this one? Slater Museum.
Oh, yeah. I've been-
What town?
Oh, Norwich.
Yes!
Yeah, I've actually shown my photographs there and some of the.
Oh, you're a photographer?
Yeah, and I also teach art history.
You do what?
I teach art history.
Oh, where?
Sacred Heart University down here.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
part-time. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been
Okay.
in a couple of the Connecticut
This
art
is one of
shows
the
there.
few high schools that have an art museum on their campus.
Yeah.
Anybody else go? I've never been there.
In the old, what they were known for, like in the 1900s and stuff, they were one of the few places that had a whole set of casts of classical sculptures, and you could study from, do drawing from and everything. Like they have, it's actually a very good collection. They have stuff from the Vatican and different things like the Diana Wall and what have you. He says it's just very funny. At the turn of the century when Victorian murals, they put all fig leaves all over them. And the statues still have fig leaves today. But that's one of the things that they were known for, was this collection of casts that you could do the drawing from. And actually they have a very good collection of Asian art and there as well. And it's an interesting collection.
So if you get to Norwich, go to the Slater Museum. And this town hall is in what town? Barbara?
Norwich also.
Norwich also. She's heard this talk 10 times.
Yes, that.
Oh no. Guess what? Well, I'll just tell you the rest of the story. Okay. Isn't that? Well, it's a good thing I got the computer coming in. Unbelievable. Well, so what I did is, what I had the people do, it's, as I said before, you have to try to visit all the towns, but you got to meet somebody. So here I am. I went to the town of Ohio in the Adirondacks, and all we had is a restaurant, okay, besides the town hall, park, and woods. So I went in there and I asked them if they had a stamp or a sticker or something I could use. And he said, how about a beer token? So he stapled a beer token in my my book. And then you get stickers or sometimes just sign, or you might even go to a town hall. Okay, and like I went to Goshen, and the lady, the town clerk in Goshen, she got her gold medallion and then put the town seal in it. So, or I went to a place called a Pink Pig in Essex, in the Adirondacks, got that. And then you have a checkoff list at the back. And those people who get to all of them, they would get the Vagabond Award, which we would show you here, which we showed you already. So now, my next job, as I said, is I wanted to do it on Connecticut. So I had to get somebody from each town to write about it. So Barbara told you how I was lucky to get her, or in my talks about the CCC, I would say, Richard, what town are you from? West Cornwall. How would you like to write a little bit about the history and interesting places? 500 to 600 words. He said, sure. So I would get him. I don't even know how I got your wife Bianca, but Bianca then got
Jeremy Brecker.
Jeremy Brecker, who's a famous writer, and he wrote, and they both together did the part about history, and she supplied interesting places. Like today, I went down the road to the Ingersoll cabinetry place and making it, God, that was gorgeous. And then I walked into the RSVP. Nobody was there, but I could see that the rolls were made. It smelled pretty good. I should have sat down and had a little bit of a snack. But so when people go, they will have this book, and it's written by the local people. I had 183 writers. Some towns, I was lucky like Barbara, and there was another guy who did 5 towns each. But most of the towns, one person wrote. It might have been the historian, the town clerk, the selectman, one lady, one young girl, I think she's 22 from Lebanon. I couldn't get the historical society to do it, or historian, or library. I don't know how I got her, but she did it, and she signed it, future town historian. And you just go around. So I went to Oxford. Anybody ever go to Rich's Farm for ice cream? A lot of people love that. Have you been there?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not all that far from where I live, so.
Oh, okay.
Oxford's up Route 8.
And I gave a talk in Wolcott.
Wolcott. Yeah.
Wolcott, okay? Not Wolcott, Wolcott. And so I stopped at a pizza place. It was called New Haven Pizza. And I asked if they would sign it. The waitress signed it, and then brought over the owner. He signed it. And then he said, where could I get a book like that? And I said, they're in my car. You want one? So I went there and
Come on.
got it signed. And you could also just go to the post office and get a stamp. And they'll stamp it, and you get the place, the town, and also the date. So, and at the back, you get your checkoff list. And so when you get to all of these, I wanted something historical, somebody who traveled around Connecticut. I didn't want to call it the Nutmeg War. Okay? Anybody know any travelers? Yes?
The Leatherman.
Leatherman,
The Leatherman.
of course.
How did you know that?
Oh, because I'm, ever since I was a kid, I was really into like folk tales and everything.
Wow.
And Connecticut history.
So, that's what I had the patch designed. And the whole story is about this. You want to tell them
Yeah,
the story?
they think he was French.
Yeah.
And he basically was homeless, and he traveled just like a circle that he traveled, and he just walked. And he just walked all around Connecticut. And I think he went up into New York too, didn't he?
He started around the Hudson River.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And then
And he
just-
stayed in caves,
Yeah.
circular, all the way to the Connecticut
Yeah.
River, and then
yeah,
a circular up towards Thomaston,
and came back
and then back
through
to the Hudson.
Litchfield, I think.
But every, the Leatherman.
Yeah, and he had a suit, and then they too,
1860s
yeah,
to 1880s.
Yeah.
Okay? And he did this about every 34 days. The people knew about when he'd be coming. They would give him food, and he would stay, and people know where these caves were that he
Yeah.
stayed in.
yeah, some of them are still, you can visit them still
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, the caves are still there,
Yeah.
and he wore clothes of leather to protect him from the wild animals. So we will have a dinner or a luncheon someplace in Connecticut, and we'll try to do it every year in a different place. And I'm even thinking that maybe we might even, since it is a little larger, maybe we might do one in the western part, in the central part, or in the eastern part. You could have 3 dinners, and everybody could come. You could just share your stories. And I made them cheap, $24.95, hardcover. And it's a fun thing where you could do with a friend, by yourself, if you have any children, grandchildren, your spouse, your enemy. But it's a fun thing to do. When I went on Wednesday night into Kent. I said, where could I get some soup? And they said, go to Fife and Drum. So I went to the Fife and Drum, and I'm sitting at the bar, and of course I got my book, I'm counting to see how many I've got so far. And a lady, Gina, from this town, she said her husband has a sawmill someplace here in town, and they take this old wood, barn wood, etc., and you make for flooring, etc., and they have a showroom there. Then I talked to Rosemary, the bartender, and she signed the book. Then the owner, what's her name?
Alyssa.
Alyssa, she signed the book. And then, of course, the library signed it, so you get to meet people. Okay, so when I go into town, I know some of the people already. It's not just, like, when I finish this, I'm going to definitely go RSVP with my book and get it signed there. Maybe I could get some samples.
You should run for governor next, you know? Everyone will know you.
Believe it or not, I was in Middlebury. Remember that? I don't know if you were there. This lady bought 2 books. She said, one's for myself, and I'm going to see Ned Lamont this week, so I'm going to give him a book. So their future governor has a book.
They were on sale last night. Actually, I was down at Barnes & Noble in Westport,
Yeah?
near in Fairfield County where I live, and they were featured prominently, actually.
Yeah, and I'm going to be...
With a few other books on Connecticut.
They have sold almost 3,000 books in 2.5 months. It's like unbelievable because it's Connecticut Magazine this month. They did a story. And also I was on Better Connecticut with Scott Haney and Kara. So it's got the publicity. Oh, and every week the New Britain, Bristol, and Willimantic paper does an excerpt, a town, every week in their travel section. And they say how you could buy it. So it's like unbelievable. So thank you very much for coming, and if you'd like to buy a book, they're $24.95. You'll get it signed by me and also Barbara and also Bianca upstairs. So thank you, and have a great adventure. And if you do get a book today, if you could give me your email so that you'll be on the mailing list, so that we can be able to tell you when the dinner is, etc. We also are on Facebook too. If you ever do Facebook, some people don't do Facebook. This way I could send you one of these. And class, does anybody have questions?
Do you list the locations of the caves of the Leatherman?
No, I don't, but I would advise you, and I should get one,
There's
a book that this Italian guy wrote, and I think he just passed away about 2 years ago, because he would go around giving talks throughout the state about the Leatherman. And some libraries and historical sites have displays. I was in Plainville, and they have one of these old-time pictures that somebody had given, because he used to stop at this guy's mother's house, and she would feed him, or his grandmother. And also Berlin in Kensington, they have a guy dressed up as a Leatherman with the leather clothes on and a hat. So I hope you have a great adventure like I am, because as I said, I'm doing the same thing, trying to see if I could be able to get all these towns. So thank you, Richard and Bianca, for hosting this. And anybody who needs a book, come right up and Barbara will sign it. Barbara will give you a seat right here.
That's it from the Souterrain Gallery in West Cornwall.
Two
Marty
books.
Podskoch.
Okay.
Okay.
And